So let's talk all things Newcastle and their new owners. And, since the takeover, my thoughts are very, very open about the Newcastle takeover because, in some aspects, I've seen Newcastle fans on FT running around like they've become this new big club, and I'm not saying they're not, but they've just come into £350 billion, and yes, they do want Steve Bruce sacked, and I'm not saying no to not having Bruce sacked. As a Chelsea fan, I'm saying to them, look, if you want to sack Steve Bruce, you've got to have short-term pain for long-term gain, and in this moment in time, I feel like Newcastle really need to come down hard and think, well, their fans really, they need to actually come back down to earth and say, actually, if we take someone like a Gus Hiddink or someone as interim manager for that time being, that would really help the squad. Yes, their squad isn't brilliant. They've got probably a bunch of very average Championship League One players at most in their squad, and they, the money that they will come into in the summer, and maybe with a proper manager, will actually help them push them to the next level of competing for trophies and everything else like that. But at this moment in time, what they need is someone who's going to come in there, come in. And come in with a philosophy where, that they will attack games and maybe change things in, like an Antonio Conte or someone like that. And I know Conte's in contact with Man United at this moment in time, because I think he's going to Man United. But they need someone who can go in there, And today I've seen them linked with Wayne Rooney, and that's just hilarious anyway, And there's a lot of people who. There's a lot of things running around my mind as to what type of caliber of player Newcastle United want to be able to attract, as well as the fact that the type of manager that they want to attract, and what type of manager will look at Newcastle as a project for the next 5, 6, 7 years as this new oil money FC, and say, right, I can take this squad and go and get Champions League or European football first, because this season they've got to survive in the league. If they go down with 350 billion in the bank, the owners are going to look a little bit foolish about, we've bought a club that have gone down, or if Bruce is still there, that they will go down, and they might blitz the Championship and come straight back up. But they've got to have a manager ready for, if they do stay up, they've got to have a manager ready to take them into the next Premier League season with the money sorted and a squad overhaul of 22 to 24 players. And obviously what type of calibre of player would look at Newcastle and think, that's a really interesting project, because, yes, they've been linked to Mbappe, Haaland, but, I don't think those type of players will step down from where they are now and say, actually, I'm going to go there. Mbappe's playing in at PSG and Haaland's at Dortmund. It's very, very difficult for me to sit here and say, it's going to be very difficult for Newcastle to attract those type of calibre players. Maybe, you've got to take a step down of the calibre player and go for the second best bracket of players that might fit the philosophy of whoever the next manager will be. Because Bruce is a dead man walking at the end of the day. He's had his time, but I think whoever the next manager actually is, he's really got to look at it hard and think, well, there's a project here. I've got to come up with my own philosophy. Even someone like Carlo Ancelotti, and I know he's at Real Madrid, but or even Brendan Rodgers. Would Brendan Rodgers leave Leicester? I'm not sure. Carlo Ancelotti's back at Real Madrid. I'm not sure whether he would leave after one season. That leaves Zinedine Zidane in the running. But he could easily again go to Man United should Antonio Conte not be there. And the managerial roundabout nowadays actually is very, very small in comparison to to what it was. I've even seen Frank Lampard being linked to the Chelsea to the Newcastle job, and I was just saying that when we had Frank as manager, we spent all the money over that one summer in Kai Havertz, Hakim Ziyech, Timo Werner, and I don't think he actually managed to know what his best 11 was, or the identity and philosophy that he wanted. When Frank came in, he used our project youth of Cobham to get us into that Champions League, and then obviously when he got sacked and Thomas Tuchel came in, Thomas Tuchel took the same bunch of players that Frank Lampard had and took them to the Champions League title-winning squad. And all we've really done is, we've loaned out Mark Gurhey, we've sent out Tammy Abraham, we've sent out so many players out on loan or got good money for them, and now we've with all the players that we've sent out, we made our money back on. The only real addition we made to the first team was Romelu Lukaku up top, and now he's playing in a 2 with Timo Werner at the moment with Tuchel. He's testing the system. So you need a manager, obviously, for Newcastle fans that, will love or will have a passion for the club as well, to take it forward over the next 5-6 years. Someone who will be able to compete with the best managers in the world, and be able to actually make Newcastle that recognisable club again. Because I know your new owners have always been open with you since they took over, saying, we'll let you know about Bruce and the players and everything else. But from where I sit at the moment, for all I see is owners who haven't really given me anything to encourage me about anything really, because they haven't really moved on Steve Bruce. They could have sacked him yesterday after his Doubtons game in charge. They could have written up his P45 and got someone else in by today or tomorrow, but they haven't. Bruce will still be in the job come tomorrow morning, they've got to remain level-headed. They've got to look at it as, yes, we are going to be here for short term, for long-term success. So as a fan base, yes, I know that they've been relieved of Mike Ashley, and let's have it right here. Mike Ashley ruined Newcastle under his ownership he neglected that club for so many years, and they are a fan base of a one-club city as well. So I'm really happy for them to have their club back in relatively good hands. It's yet to see how much these owners take Newcastle on board and just how much they really do sort of take Newcastle under their wing, what they change, where their direction is going, because we've got Christmas. Christmas will come up, then the January transfer window. So there has to be some sort of strategy going into the next few games or over the next, because we've got another international break in the next 3.5 weeks. So, in that next international break, Steve Bruce could still either be in the job or he could be potentially not their manager anymore. And, they've got to look around for a manager, maybe for the short term till the end of the season, to keep them afloat. And then they go again proper in the summer and go on the shopping spree. But this is why I wanted to just talk about Newcastle, because I've seen all their fans wanting success now instantly rather than waiting for the success to come, because it's a project rebuild, and it's going to be an overnight project. It's not going to happen over the next year or so. It's going to take the next 8 to 10 years maybe to rebuild Newcastle back up, and to make them really challenge for maybe league titles, maybe to be in Europe as well. But there's only so much you can look at it and say on the footballing side, how many of their players would actually survive, apart from St Maximin, Callum Wilson, maybe Joe Willock to that extent. Everyone else is basically on the chopping board, and it'd be very interesting to see what type of players that they bring in over the next 2 to 3 years, maybe, or 4 years, that shapes Newcastle United as a new team. Maybe if they use some of the academy players, maybe they get a Frank or whatever in the short term, because Frank knows how to use academy players for short-term gain, for short-term success. And if you look at, Frank's got a philosophy. Yes, he might still be learning his trade, but even like managers like Steven Gerrard, he's still got to try his hand in League Two or League One or the Championship before stepping his toe into the Premier League. There's not many managers nowadays, and I've said this to everyone as well. The managerial roundabout is now becoming all these ex-players becoming managers, because that's where football is going. You look at players who are actually managing in the Premier League at the moment, Mikel Arteta, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And yes, there are some other players who have taken job, Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard, but they took him in. Gerrard buying his time at Rangers till he gets the Liverpool job after Klopp. Rooney's at Derby at the moment. Frank was at Derby, then came to Chelsea. So we're seeing the progression of legends of the game becoming managers. And we've seen, the likes of Gary Neville try their hand, Phil Neville try their hand at managing, who weren't very successful in that way. So this is why I'm saying that, you've got to know what sort of boundary you're going for before saying, right, we want this manager, this philosophy, this type of caliber player, because something like this is brand new to Newcastle. And it'd just be very interesting to be able to see, again, the players that they want to build a squad. Because I've heard Jurgen Klopp say they're building a super squad, and say what you want about Saudi and the consortium as well. Say what you want about the human rights issue as well. That's another topic for another debate. But all the owners in world football have stories behind them that no one really knows about, from the Kroenkes to Roman Abramovich to the Glazers. All these owners who we protested for the Super League. Just simply because we wanted that to stop, and it did. Zidane again is another player who is Zidane is that type of manager again, who is another player who was a manager and has a stellar managerial career. But this is where you've got to really think and be level-headed and take out that we've got our club back thing, and think actually we've got to actually rebuild with a manager for the short term, who will bring a short-term success, maybe the FA Cup, a Carabao Cup, and then start building properly in the summer or 2 summers' time with a squad full of fresh new names, maybe a bit of swagger. But it'd be really interesting to hear from different people what their thoughts are on, this Newcastle thing, what type of caliber of player they actually want to see in the league, or what type of players they can attract within the league, and what type of manager they're going to go for essentially as well. So let me know about that as well. This has been my let's talk about Newcastle and their fans, and how intolerable they have been since the takeover, and what to actually expect from them in the next couple of years, and whether they can actually compete for a league title, for the biggest honours in football, or whether they're just going to build into this team with just good players, I would imagine, depending on how much money they actually have. I've seen another report saying they've only got 50 million to spend in January, and then, say what you want about that, because January is very, very difficult for players to move over in January. They're halfway through a season and to build into a new team as well. So, yeah.